Hi everyone and happy Tuesday. I have returned to my desk to have a little look at my picture. I'm going to be using my magnifying glasses now to have a closer look. I don't know whether that's a good idea. What I am going to do is grab my ivory black. Now I said I wasn't going to do this, but I am just going to do another layer of black in some areas where it's a little bit pale. I'm not sure I'm going to need to do that with the lapis lazuli colour or the maroon colour that I used on the other two parts, but this one. Now, reminder that I'm using Tombow Irojiten pencils, and we are mainly going to be focusing on the flowers and leaves in the border today, but I'm just going to do this a little bit. I'm just sort of going over the bits that look extra light, really, just to satisfy my eye. There are little bits that are sort of missing an extra white. Paper is showing through. Now, if I'd used a pen, this would have looked even worse. I'm not very good at even coverage, and I probably would have left lots of white speckles, and because the colour of a pen is much more intense, it really shows up when you miss bits out. Now, I'm not sure whether to do my florals in maroon and lapis lazuli, so the one on the red side do it in blue and the one on the blue side do it in red. That thought occurred to me, but I haven't completely made up my mind yet. Or I could do the florals just the same on both sides. So there are options there. Right, I'm going to leave that now, but what I'm going to start with is actually the greenery. Now I want something that's going to be green enough to show up against our blue and black and red backgrounds without being, so it's not too dark but not too bright. And I'm looking and I'm thinking the forest green is probably a good colour for that, if I can get hold of it. Here it is. So I'm going to sharpen it, and I'm going to do all my leaves in this, leaves and stems on both sides. I will come in a bit closer. You'll have to forgive me if I forget to move across, but really I'm just going to block it in. I haven't thought much about the butterflies there yet, but that's okay. We can think as we colour. So hopefully this is bright enough to see against the blue without being too bright that it's going to stand out above our central floral design. That's the plan of this particular colour, and I'm satisfied with it. It's a little bit, doesn't stand out that well against in these teeny bits, but mostly it looks fine. My lead is a bit wobbly. I'm trying to ignore it and hope that it lasts. We'll see. Now once you start to fill in the leaves, you'll start to see areas of your background that you've missed. Well, maybe you won't if you're much more accurate than me, but I do. So it's possible you might want to go back with your blue or maroon, depending on which side you're on, and just fill those in. But it's completely up to you. Oh, I'm probably not going to do that myself at the moment. Depends whether there are any really bad areas. I'm hoping the eye will just be drawn to the flower in the centre, and then it won't be that important. Now I am just blocking this in. I'm not doing any shading, shadows, anything like that. Any light and shade, hard and light, that sort of thing, because it's the frame. I will do some on the main plant itself, I think. I'm going to grab my blue and just do that bit there. That was the lapis lazuli, by the way, which I used yesterday for our background colour. I'm not sure about the dots here. I think I'm just going to fill them in. I have been thinking a little bit more about colours for the flowers, and it does occur to me that if I do them in maroon, if I do these up in this corner, sorry you can't see them now, in maroon, they might not show up at all well because we've got so much dark going on. It might make more sense to do them in a lighter colour, but then, as I keep saying, I want this border to be quite dark. Decisions, pondering what to do. I was just got popped next door to ask my son if I could do a download, and he said no, and he's doing something he doesn't want me to do. I can do it overnight anyway, if necessary. Oh, he's got, I knew that would go, and you're not even in shot, I just did that. He's got an early start tomorrow, so he'll be going to bed early, so I can set it up in the evening. He won't be doing anything in the evening. That will mean he will need to be online. There we go. Now the good thing with the Tombow pencils is you can buy them open stock, meaning you can buy individual ones. So me having sharpened this one, if it turns out that I need to buy a new one, you can see it's actually pretty long still at the moment. I know where I can get one. Coloured Pencil Shop does them in the UK. I don't know about other countries. I know some people buy open stock pencils from Blix, I think, and from Michael's, but I'm sure you have other art shops. Hobby Lobby, that's right. But here in the UK, if that's where you're from, if you want polychromos, you can get them from Hobbycraft. If you want Derwents, you can sometimes get them from independent art shops. But if you want this sort of pencil, or your Prismacolors, that sort of thing, I'm going to be having to buy them online. Amazon tends to have quite a lot of these sorts of things as well, but I sometimes find they're very expensive, or you have to buy a batch, you know, you can't just buy one. So I also like to support the Coloured Pencil Shop. She's a small business, just one person on her own, so you know, it always feels good to support someone little. I think so anyway, rather than a big giant like Amazon or Hobbycraft, etc. And local art shops as well probably need support. So that's something worth considering, although I struggle with ours because their stock is quite old, so it isn't always very good. Pencils age, they don't last. I didn't know this, but I bought a Caran d'Ache pencil from them and it was awful, and I wrote to Caran d'Ache and went, this is awful, it's really scratchy and dry, and you know, according to reviews they're not supposed to be like this. So they were like, send us the barcode, which I did, and they were like, these are really old, you know, we'll send you a replacement, which was really, really, really kind of them. It wasn't what I was expecting, and so now I'm really reluctant to buy from that place, you know, in case that's happened to other pencils and things they've got. I didn't like to tell them either, they're not, they're like quite snobby with regards to art. They do have a couple of colouring books, but they're sort of, I don't know, like Colour Monet or William Morris or things like that. Not just nice fun regular stuff. I always feel a bit, if I don't want to mention that I'm a colouring book artist, because I'll feel like they'll look down their nose at me. You know what I mean? I mean, I know I shouldn't be embarrassed, but sometimes you don't want that kind of negativity, so it's better just not to talk to them. But yeah, so I've not had the best experience with them. I actually went there with my father-in-law quite recently, and he wanted to buy some pastel pencils. I think like pit pastel. Is it called pit pastel? Something like that. But he was absolutely shocked at how expensive they were, as a lot of people are when they look at the price of a pencil. They go, don't really pay that much for a pencil, do you? Like, yeah. They're good. I think people forget, like, you know, that it's not, yeah, of course you can buy a set of what word am I looking for, cheap pencils. I had a brand in mind, it's not coming, in a supermarket or whatever, for a really cheap price, for like a couple of pounds, for like 12. So people think that that's what you should be paying. They don't realise the difference between you know, quality of pencils, and of course the very best artists can do amazing jobs with even cheaper brands of pencil. And you know, maybe we should all be trying a bit harder, but it's nice, isn't it, having a nice pencil that feels good, that works for you. Just sharpening my maroon. It's gonna do a tiny touch-up job there. Yeah, what was I trying to think of? Crayola. That's it. They're really cheap, and I've seen the most amazing pictures done with them. And I think it was Sarah Renee Clark who did a sort of comparison eye drawing where she did half with Caran d'Ache and half with Crayola. You couldn't tell the difference, but I do wonder how long she took on each side, and whether the Crayola took lots more effort and time, because you've got to work those pencils to get the colour out of them, you know. So I don't know for sure, of course, but for me, I like a nice pencil. And I have got a lot of nice pencils. I mean, some of the budget ones are good as well, you know, like I've got Amazon Basics, and they are a nice pencil. And the Faber-Castell the red pack in the cardboard box, I can't remember, Classics I think they're called, they're a nice pencil too. They're a little bit harder, but sometimes that's good, like for this picture for example, but they're still good pencils, you know. Whereas if you go to a restaurant and you're out for lunch and you get a little packet of pencils for your kids, and they're about this long each, those are just terrific pencil, really nasty. I remember going to a bookshop once, my boys were choosing books, and I sat down at the activity table, I think this was in Waterstones, and I did some colouring, because there was some colouring on the table, and my goodness, the pencils they put out, they were just awful. I was like this, can I have some colour, can I have some colour? That was funny. But, you know, I think it's bad as well that kids get given the worst pencils. I mean, I know they don't necessarily always treat them well, but surely they're the ones that, without the skill, I mean practice, I don't mean skill, I mean practice at using pencils, and the fact that their little hand muscles aren't as strong as ours, you know, they must find it so hard, and it must be so off-putting, you know. Why would you want to do it? I remember actually as a child I used to like my felt pens. I hated pencils because they were so rubbish. Crayons were okay for a while until they snapped, and then I didn't like them. But they're quite vibrant. But also the ones I had were quite chunky, so you couldn't do detail. And yeah, I really disliked using pencils. I just like using felt tip pens. They were like water-based markers, and I remember for Christmas or my birthday I might get a whole load in a sort of long packet, and you get loads of different colours. Try them out in your book. Really good fun. And then they'd start drying up. Some wouldn't work to start with anyway, and then eventually did just get chucked in the box with all the others, and you'd have like a box of pens and all the browns and blacks were left and all the pinks have been used up. Yeah, does that sound familiar? And the purples got used up, and the yellows, they always used to run out quickly. I guess flower middles. I don't know. I don't really remember what I used to colour. Kids' colouring books have quite a variety because they're for boys and girls. So you'd have like cars and trucks and things, and then also have fairies and houses and, you know, a big range of different things to colour. I don't think I got my kids' colouring books at all. I didn't start colouring when they were little, but it was not something they were ever that interested in. They preferred to draw. Their dad got them sketchbooks and things, but even then, it really wasn't their thing. I think as the parents do it, why would you want to do it? Particularly as you get older. And I don't remember what sort of art they did at school. I think they used to do watercolours quite a bit. But they didn't really enjoy it. But there was always a sort of theme, and you had to do very specific work. Like they would take a whole term just filling one piece of paper with different marks and things. You know, it didn't look very inspiring. But there we go. I mean, it must be difficult to teach a lesson that inspires every child. Well, you can't, can you? So that was. I never got on with art at school either, and look at me now, filling in the lines like I'm 5. I'm just going to sharpen my pencil. Yeah, I think as a lot of the art we did was based on imagination, I just couldn't visualise, so it was just too hard for me. And often it was people we had to do. We used to have to paint each other or do a self-portrait. It's like, ugh. How many teenagers want to look at themselves in a mirror and then paint themselves? Really? It was a bit of a silly idea. My kids used to do one every year at the primary school. Now, I'm just going to come out and talk to you about the plants and butterflies. If we have a look, there isn't really a whole lot more to do. And so I am thinking that maybe, oh, I missed that green bit. Just do that bit. How many of you noticed? Maybe it will make sense to do them in reverse colours. I quite like the idea. Now I've mused on it for a bit. I'm just making that look a bit better. Hopefully. There we go. So I'm going to grab my red, my maroon, and I'm going to work through. Now the centres of the flowers are going to be the same colour as the outsides. I'm not going to come in closer because they're all so far away from each other. If you would like to do a yellow flower middle or something, you could, but I think it'll make it too bright. We'll do a yellow one on this flower, but not on these. And there we go. Just work back up the side. I thought we might have something a little bit more Eastery, but then I realised that Johanna doesn't really do Easter. I'm sure one Easter she did a Kiddies Bunny colouring sheet, and I was trying to find it the other day on her blog and I couldn't find it, because I thought it might have been a fun one to do with this sort of trend in cute cosy colouring. I thought it might just fit in with that, but as I say, couldn't find it, so that was a shame. I don't know whether she took it down or whether it wasn't there that she had put it, I don't know. But maybe I'll have a harder look. Okay, so there's that side. And then lapis lazuli for this side. I think I need to sharpen that a little bit. Oops, crow. Oh, that wasn't what I planned. Maybe that bed's getting a bit blunt. I'm using a different sharpener now. There we go, because my lead is still in the other one. I have to remember to empty it out. It's still really sunny today. I think I did water the garden this morning because I thought it's going to get, and then I think I've forgotten to do a bit of it. I got a bit distracted. I found I was sorting through tidying up in here, and I found an old card which had some seeds in the card. I don't know if you've ever had those. So I told you how I planted those. Basically it was really simple. You just wetted the bit of the card with the seeds on, and then it said tear it up and plant it and put some compost over it, start it off inside and then put them out. So I didn't do that. I wetted it and tore it up and then pushed it into a flower pot in the garden to see whether it comes up. Problem is, because I've got no idea what flowers or what it is, I've got absolutely no idea what it is. So when something starts coming up, I'll have no idea whether it's what I planted or just some weeds. So that'll be interesting. Mystery green shoots. We'll leave them and then see, and then we'll end up with something like stinging nettles. Although I saw a nettle in flower today. I thought it was a white bell to start with, and I realised it was a white nettle. It looked really pretty. I'm actually going to grab my maroon and just tidy up a tiny bit around here. I know I said I wasn't really going to do it, but there are a few little patches that just look like they need a bit of attention. If you're using pen, you can't get away with this. You have to make sure you've got an even layer and going right to the edges, covering all the white, because it really, really stands out when you do it with pen. I find pencil is a little bit more forgiving because it's not so intense. But I'm just basically going around, tidying it here and there. I think I was getting tired and blurred vision by the time I got to this bit. I couldn't see what I was doing. I've got my magnifying specs. These are from JML. I've seen quite a lot on Amazon, different types. Mine have got little lights on, I haven't got them on, that you can use to light up what you're doing, because you'll obviously be pointing your head. Just getting a green to do that there. You'll be pointing your head towards what you're doing, so the light sort of lights it up. But I've got a lamp on, so I don't really need that. And they just magnify a bit, which is useful. If you've got like magnifying reading glasses anyway, you might find they're enough. I just find my varifocals aren't good enough when I'm doing this sort of detail, or when I've been doing it a lot. My eyes start getting tired, so they need some extra help. So that's what these are for. few bits, tidy up here and there, darken a few areas where it looks a bit pale. Feeling thirsty. Could make a drink, I think, in a minute. What time? It's 4:10. Maybe I just have a bit of water. Time to cook in an hour. We started eating at 6 instead of 5 since the clock's changed, so my body's still getting used to it. It's okay though. It's the later lunch I'm finding harder compared with the evening meal. Is a bit easier because we've been eating late some nights anyway before. Right, now this isn't anything like as long as yesterday's video, but I think it just seems like a really good place to end. I'm actually really pleased with how that looks on camera. It looks a lot better than when I'm looking at it close up. Yeah, how I imagine it should look is how it would look if I put another 3 coats of colour on, and I'm wondering whether to do that in between videos just so that it looks better, or whether a blender or burnisher might help. I'm going to give it a thought, but that is where we're at for now. But thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and happy colouring.